laid it out nicely on the Facebook page. So I just want to take a quick moment to throw out a few thank yous. One is to many of my FTF colleagues who are on the call with us, who are helping to support, which is really nice to have you here even after a long day. And many thanks to our Facebook moderators and administrators. That is just an absolutely wonderful community for sharing resources. And here's one of the opportunities that presented itself. And thanks also to the wonderful staff at UCP who have really embraced the PLS program and are going full hog with it. So what I'd like to do is share a PowerPoint that has sort of the general overview of the plan. And just like Dr. J said, we'll have time for a little presentation also from the UCP people and also some from some question and answer. All right, so let me get to the PowerPoint. All right, and minimize that. Can you, no, not yet. Here we go. All right, can you see the slide? Somebody give me a thumbs up, please. There we go. All right, because I got little tiny pictures here of everybody, but I can't see much. All right, so before I go past the title slide, I just want to ask the question: do we have any PLS authors in the house? If so, please put the letter A in the chat, because I just want to get a sense of PLS authors who might be here in the house. Dr. Lazinski's with us. Fantastic. That's great. In fact, he and I are going to be putting on a presentation of PLS full day workshop coming up in August in Nebraska. So that'll be fun. Looks like he's the only one so far, but I am anticipating a few others joining us in a little while. Okay, now if you have been a practitioner of PLS in the past, if you've used the curriculum, could you put the letter P, please, in the chat? Okay, we got some rolling in now. Yeah. All right. This is going to help give me a sense of the rest of you. My assumption will be that if you're not an author and you're not a current practitioner, that you would like to learn about it so that you could one day become an expert at the curriculum. Oh, good. Okay, a few more people. All right. Well, let's go ahead. And I'm going to ask my first question. This comes from a survey that went out. Oh, goodness, it's kind of a little dated now, but it was a survey of early childhood educators asking them what is the most challenging thing for a preschool teacher. And I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. Just a 1 or 2 word answer would be great. Throw them in the chat, and then I'll read a few, and then I'll reveal what my answer is. Peer interactions, yeah. Problem behavior, okay. What else we got? One-step directions, transitions, circle time, group. Yeah. This is all good stuff. Toileting, oh my goodness, of course. All right, well, as those continue to roll in, well, let's just take a little look further. Here's a challenge. This to some, they might consider this to be somewhat stressful. You think? Well, here's another challenge. She's certainly stressed, and I'll bet you $100 that her teacher is too. And sometimes the balls just don't cooperate. Yeah, that's another stressful challenge for everyone in a preschool when this happens. But there's hope. There is hope, my friends. All children can learn the skills that will allow them to be successful, not only in preschool, but in life as well. Okay, so we're going to try to make a whole bunch of graduates who have the social skills to handle disappointment, have the social skills to make friends, and have the social skills to be competent in a group setting. All right, so the big question is, what is PLS? Well, it's an RTI skill-based curriculum for preventing problem behavior. And one of the things, as you probably noticed in my title slide, it's not just for preschool anymore. The original study was done in a preschool, and then subsequently several of the other studies came out and they were done in preschools. But then the research started to broaden out. Now we can say that this is a curriculum that has been tested empirically with kids with special needs, kids without special needs, kids who are younger, kids who are older in elementary grades. So it's being embraced as a much more robust curriculum that everyone can benefit from. So I mentioned this thing, an RTI, skill-based curriculum. What in the world is an RTI? My friend, Dr. J, spent some time talking to me. He sat me down and he said, let me explain it to you. This is what we mean by RTI. And I went in with wide eyes, open ears, and said, all right, my friend, teach me, I gotta learn. Well, this is what he came up with. He had a really good way of appealing to my 90s sense of style, and showed me this slide step by step. It's a response to intervention model for the preschool life skills, RTI, right? That's what RTI stands for, of course. It's response to intervention. And if you recognize these people, then you may be somewhere around my age. If you're not recognizing them, then I'm guessing you're millennial. All right, here it is broken down a little bit more. 4 steps in this RTI model. Previously, we used to describe the RTI as a 3-step model, but nowadays I think 4 steps is probably more appropriate given some of the other technologies that have been built up around it. So the tier 1 or step 1 in RTI is a curriculum for all. It's group-based. It's at the bottom of a triangle. It's where we start. So step 1, we can have lots of fun. Nice and catchy, I like that. And this is where you introduce the skill to the whole classroom. And we know that it's going to be, some of the students are going to be really successful with it right out of the bat, and others are going to need extra practice. For those who need extra practice, of course, they're going to move up to step 2 or tier 2. And so there's so much we can do. And this is what we're going to be implementing in small groups. The small group arrangement is meant to mass trial, to be able to increase the density of trials so that we can catch those kids up so that they can make the move over and join the group and be part of everyone. But sometimes there's a subset within that small group who need even more practice. And that's step 3 in the RTI model. It's instruction for one. It's just you and me. Step 3, it's just you and me. Individualized, personalized lessons where we're going to be working directly one-on-one with a child. All right, step 4 in RTI is the piece that we're adding on now, and we're doing this at UCP. For some kids, they need more than just a prevention curriculum. The preschool life skills was designed as prevention, but for some kids, they already have a repertoire of severe problem behavior. And if that's the case, then we're going to bump them into a special category where they're going to get the practical functional assessment and skill-based treatment. All right. Any questions about what an RTI model is? Response to intervention. Okay. All right. So if our aim is to prevent problem behavior, then we know that we have to teach the functional skills to produce the reinforcers that often maintain that problem behavior. All right, this should not sound foreign to any of you. I imagine this is what you're doing all the time. Teaching functional skills. That's the approach. You've heard of the phrase, I'm sure. If you teach a person to fish, if you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. If you teach a person to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. That's really the distinction between teaching somebody skills and just mollifying the environment. So for example, if you have kids who are competing over toys, one solution is to just get duplicates of all the toys. and make sure that everybody has what they need. And yeah, that'll probably minimize the problem behavior, but it's not going to do anything to teach a repertoire of prevention. It's not going to do anything for that student when they leave and they find themselves in another environment where there are fewer materials than there are people to enjoy them. What we need to do is teach the skills, the social skills that will reduce the social friction that can arise when you encounter those situations. All right, now here's yet another triangle. This is the preschool life skills, or some folks have taken to calling them universal life skills, particularly if they're doing implementation outside of a preschool. In other words, if they're doing this in an elementary classroom, then they don't want to be using the word preschool. That wouldn't be good. So change it to what you think would be most appropriate for the setting. Universal life skills, or like my colleagues did down in Texas, they just called it life skills. And this was for a group of middle schoolers that were going through the program who had some special needs. All right. Oh, gee, I'm sorry. It got away from me. So the first unit in the preschool life skills is instruction following. Okay, the second unit is functional communication. Third unit is tolerance, and the fourth unit is friendship. These build upon one another, which is why we like to portray it in a triangle. So the instruction following skills are listener skills. That's why we teach those first. They're generally a little bit easier, particularly in classrooms that have kids with some communication difficulties. But after you teach the listener skills, then you teach the speaker skills. That's what happens in the next layer, in functional communication. And then once you have kids asking for stuff, then it becomes the necessity to teach them to tolerate short delays to accessing those materials. And then finally, once you get up and have mastered that, it's time to teach, put the icing on the cake, the window dressing that will ingratiate these students to other people, including adults and their peers. And that's what happens in that fourth unit. All right, so now we're drilling down even deeper. Those 4 units expanded look like this. The curriculum for preschool life skills is made up of 13 skills. And here they are. So within the category of instruction following, we'll have the student responding to their name. Following simple instructions comes next. Following multi-step instructions follows that, okay? Afterwards, we'll move over to tolerance, and in here we're going to be asking them to tolerate delays imposed by adults and tolerating delays imposed by peers. All right, give me a little feedback here. I'm interested to know, has anyone heard of the phrase waiting words? Use your waiting words. It goes like this: when I wait nicely, I get what I want. When I wait patiently, I get what I want. It's a little phrase that you can teach kids to engage in while they're waiting for the thing that they want most. And it's almost like a self-instruction. And the reason why we teach this is because nobody waits with nothing to do. Think about that for a minute. Do you ever just wait and sit in a Zen-like posture and do nothing? Some people who practice yoga might do that, but my guess is that they're also doing a whole bunch of other things. But what I'm getting at is that we generally have something to do while we're waiting. So if we're in line at a store, at a grocery store, we pull out the good old cell phone. If we're at a doctor's office and we're waiting to be seen, we got our cell phone. Some people take it a step too far and pull out the cell phone at red lights. That's not a good idea. I don't recommend doing that. In that case, let your waiting behavior be observing the people and the cars all around you. All right, Tabby just put something in the chat that's really awesome about the Daniel tiger. Yeah, he continues. to be a favorite of mine. Okay, now let's move along a little bit. After tolerance skills come the functional communication skills. And in this case, it's about requesting help, requesting attention, requesting materials from adults, and then finally requesting materials from peers. And you see how these are ordered? Children are often going to need that request for help pretty quick before they, lose their mind and melt into a puddle. If you can give them the skills to be able to request help when faced with a difficult situation, that's going to minimize problem behavior. In group settings, oftentimes you have to deal with diverted attention conditions. And when that happens and you feel like you need to get a little bit of that love, well, then it's nice to have a repertoire, a skill in your repertoire to be able to use to let people know when you need a little extra attention. But it's not always about attention. Sometimes it's about stuff. So they need to have a skill in their repertoire to be able to get access to the things that they don't currently have. So manding for materials. We want to start that off with adults first, because the adults are there for teaching purposes, and when they get the request from the student, at least initially, they're going to deliver it to them. And I have to make an apology here. I just realized that I went the wrong way. I went from instruction following to tolerance. Some of you may have caught that, some of you may not have. I know Dr. Lazinski is going to shoot me now, but I meant to go from instruction following down to functional communication and then back up to tolerance. But at any rate, the point I'm trying to make is that when you're teaching a student to request materials, it's best to get that off the ground with an adult first, because the adult is going to be willing to give up those materials. When you get to moving into the next skill, which is to request materials from peers, that can be a little bit more challenging because that other peer may not be quite so willing to relinquish the item at that time. So you have to pick your peers. You have to be strategic in how you pick your peers. Pick somebody who's likely to be agreeable. And then when they engage in that agreeable behavior, make sure that you reinforce that. Okay, I'm not good about checking the chat too often. Oh, Lenny's dropping bombs. Thank you, Lenny.
And Tony, Tabby will bring you in if there's anything in there you need to know. I know we've had a lot of questions about these slides being offered, so I'm assuming that you'll offer them up.
Sure. Okay, and then here are the friendship skills: saying thank you, acknowledging and complimenting, offering and sharing, and comforting. So you see what we're doing? We're drilling down. We're going step, 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 step. We're drilling down like that. And now I can take it one step further. All right, so when we're going to teach a skill, when we're going to teach any of these skills, we have to create the proper motivation for the students to engage in that skill. That is one of the distinguishing factors between this curriculum and all the other curriculums that are out there. This one specifically puts evocative situations in place to create the proper motivation for the students to engage in the skill. All right, in the absence of an evocative event, there's no motivation to learn the skill. So you might get some discriminative control over the topography of the skill, but it's not going to be coming from the heart, and it's very unlikely that they're going to use that behavior when they really need it. All right, so putting in the evocative events over and over and over again, systematically and thoughtfully, those are the keys. We don't want to be haphazard about this. We don't want to, cause unnecessary meltdowns. So we're systematic, we're thoughtful, and we place those evocative events, those EOs, we place them very carefully with the proper prompt support at first, and with the proper modeling. And then as the repertoire starts to become more robust, we're going to introduce some more challenges so that we give them multiple exemplars and build a repertoire that's generalized across all kinds of different settings and situations. So the first one is one of my favorites because it's the base, it's the foundation of everything. And it's really important because in life, people learn to avoid doing things when people call their name. They engage in a whole bunch of other behavior other than the behavior that the speaker is looking for. And why do you think that might be? Why do you think people fail to respond to their name? Let's see if we can get somebody to put that in the chat for us. Dorm follows, CMOR. Oh, Penny, look at this. Yeah, followed by more demands. You're right, Victoria. You got it. It's often followed by demands. Yes. Jessica, Penny, Jenny. All right. That's exactly it. You get punished for looking up, saying yes, and it's followed by a downgrade in their world. Their world just all of a sudden worsened. They experienced a worsening following the name call. So the idea is to flip the script on them and create a local history of reinforcement for stopping what they're doing, looking up and saying yes. Children who stop what they're doing, look up and say yes, followed by a name call, are much more likely to be complete subsequent requests, like the one-step direction and the two-step directions. So it's one of the reasons why we do it. And the way you do it is to prompt them and say ahead of time, when I call your name, I want you to stop what you're doing, look up and say yes. And when that happens, it's incumbent upon us to give them some sort of an upgrade in their world. And I'm going to show you a video of that in just a little bit. Okay, the notion of upgrades, for those of you who are behavior analysts, you'll know that as reinforcers, but the critical thing is that those upgrades are intimately matched to what the students are currently engaged with. We're not hammering them with arbitrary reinforcers on top of what they already have. It is some sort of enhancement, upgrade. It's the best word I can use for it. So if they're coloring and they're doing a nice art activity, but their crayons are all kind of crappy and broken and the paper's tearing off them, then when you set them up and you say Sally, and Sally stops what she's doing, she looks up and she says yes, you follow that by reaching into your back pocket and pulling out a brand new box of Crayolas and saying, thanks for looking up, stopping what you were doing and saying yes, pick your favorite crayon. You give her that nice new shiny one. That's an upgrade that's intimately matched to the activity that she was currently engaged with. Okay, another example would be, let's say students are playing with little cars. They're driving the cars around and all of that, and they look great. But you've deliberately taken out all the trucks, and you know that they love trucks. They're playing with the cars, they're pretty cool with that. But you come over to them in the middle of center time and say, Johnny, I'm sorry, I'm being sexist. Let me try that again. Sally. And Sally stops what she's doing. She looks up and she says, yes. I say, oh my goodness, Sally, that's so wonderful. I love the game you're playing. Here, look what I brought for you. I found all these trucks to go with all your cars. And that's upgrading Sally's moment. Okay. I could go on and on, but I know the time is short. And the point I'm trying to make is that for every life skill that we have, there's going to be an evocative event that sets it up. And that's where your job is. That's where you get to be creative in all kinds of ways. How you introduce it to the community, the classroom, generally is introduced at a circle time. The circle time is a great place to do demonstrations. And then you follow it up with practice opportunities during center time, during free play time, snack time, lunch time, transition out to the playground, transition in from the playground. Those are all your practice opportunities. You got to, get the practice opportunities up. Okay, another place for creativity is in the skill itself. So I'm presenting these as they were originally envisioned and investigated, but since then, we've put a whole bunch of opportunities for modifications. This is where it gets real good and why it's so powerful for kids with special needs who might not have the same level of communication skills as kids in more typically developing preschools. So if you have to modify skill number one, where you stop, look up and say yes, lots of ways to do that. And if they're not speaking from their mouth yet, okay, that's fine. They can stop what they're doing, look up and wave. Stop, look up, give a thumbs up, give an okay, hands up. That's all great. What if they have some motor skill difficulties too? That's okay. That's okay. We could, you can have them use a PEX card. You can have them do pro lo quo to go. Or at the very least, you just have them look up and smile. That's perfectly acceptable too. Okay, basically what we're trying to do is just set the occasion for the student to indicate to the speaker that they're a listener and they're ready for what comes next. And we're going to hit them with some upgrades, a whole bunch of upgrades. And then later on, we'll start to switch it up on them and say, oh, great, thanks for stopping what you're doing, looking up and saying yes. Now, take this cup and throw it away for me. You hit them with a little bit more of an evocative situation, but only when they can handle. Okay, delay tolerance follows. You have to set up evocative events for that as well. So the adult's going to delay access to requested materials, and then we'll set up Confederate peers to delay access to materials. When they wait nicely, they get what they want. Of course, there's lots of modifications that can go along with that too. And then we move into the friendship skills. This is a basic one, saying thank you. But how long does it take sometimes for kids to say thank you? Well, in a lot of places, it takes a long time because they don't know how to create the evocative situation. And how often do you see mothers and fathers and teachers continually prompting their kids to say thank you, say thank you, say thank you? Because they haven't got enough training where they've been given something and the person hasn't released it until the thank you comes. If you just give it, you give it completely over before the thank you comes, then there's no more motivation for them to engage in that behavior. It becomes discriminative rather than evocative, under evocative control. It's not coming from the heart anymore. They already got the thing. This one I really like. It's about another child's entering the classroom or the play group, and you want to make them feel welcome. So you acknowledge their presence, compliment something about them. The 12th one is about sharing. Instead of asking, getting materials for yourself and asking for them. In this one, what we're going to do is just offer them up, delivering some reinforcer to another person when they enter your airspace. How wonderful is that? This is the essence of creating a utopian community, a utopian preschool community. You work at these, you're going to have that. You're going to have a community that is caring of one another and treats the world well and is full of shared reinforcement for everyone. Finally, the last one is to be able to acknowledge when somebody's in pain or distress or has potentially hurt themselves. And from there, it could also lead to going and getting help. Okay, and of course, there's modifications that go along with this. Lots of advantages. Don't really have time to go through them all right now. So I want to get to the video so that we can then get to the questions. All right, here we go. This is skill number 1. Remember, it's when I call your name, stop what you're doing, look up and say yes.
Nicholas. Antonio. Nicholas.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, did you want the purple one that went with lightning? All right, now you got 2 super fast cars.
Okay, real simple. He was already playing with Matchbox cars or some type of car, and she called his name. She stopped what he was doing. He looked up. He said, "Yeah," which is perfectly fine, at least to start. She upgraded his world with a truck. Okay, let's take a quick look one more time.
Nicholas. Antonio. Nicholas.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, did you want the purple one that went with lightning? All right, now you got 2 super fast cars.
I have a feeling that the teacher was not only teaching, but video recording herself. I don't care. I just need these videos when we do consulting on this stuff. I need to see it in action so that I can give proper kind of feedback. This was a good example.
Nicholas.
Oop. Okay, here's skill number 4, requesting assistance. When faced with a challenging situation, student will say, "Help me, please."
We can try taping. It's Grant. Grant, please come see me. Come here, my friend. G R A N T. Go put it in the blue. If it's too hard, say, "Help me." Yes, I'd love to help you. Ready? Nice job. Do you want a high five or to sing? Both?
All right, that couldn't be any more cute. Very good. So she sets up an evocative situation. Unsuspecting Grant is handed something, asked to go do something. He shows up and somebody put it 5 feet up the wall. But this was an early prompted trial and he handled it well. Over time, he acquires the skill.
We can try tape.
All right, here's another one, skill 7, requesting access. This one is one of my absolute favorites. It may not be immediately apparent what's going on at first. This is the target student. These are the Confederates. Okay, so when materials or areas are inaccessible or unavailable, the student will say, "May I have that, please?" Or some modification of that. All right, so here we go. Let's give this a shot. I'll play it twice because it's that good.
3.
Let's count them. Don't.
1, 2, 3.
Very
Then the
good.
big one and that's a medium and that's a small.
You're right. Small, medium, and large. Oh, what happened? Where did you tell your friend? Come here. Okay, go sit down. Good job. Good job, boys. Look at all these excuse me's. I'm so proud of you guys. And listen, I want you to practice.
All right, that was fantastic. I absolutely love it. So where'd he go? Here's our student. This guy is beside himself. I'm sorry, here's our target student. This guy's beside himself, giddy with the mischief he's creating here for that evocative situation. And when the target student first comes, he's a little confused. You know, he goes back to the board, but then he comes back again and he figures it out. Excuse me, under evocative control. Let's look at that one more time so you can spot it happening.
3.
Let's count them. Don't.
1, 2, 3.
Very
Then the
good.
big one and that's a medium and that's a small.
You're right. Small, medium, and large. Oh, what happened? Where did you tell your friend? Come here. Okay, go sit down. Good job. Good job, boys. Look at all these excuse me's. I'm so proud of you guys. And listen, I want you to practice.
Okay, very good. And now moving along, this is the last one. This is just a sampling of the skills. I'm going to show you an example of delay tolerance. And to set this up, we've got a red light, green light situation going on here where the student tolerates delays imposed by adults. See if you can spot the opportunity for a friendship skill. There's an embedded EO in here that was unplanned. See if you can spot it.
Wait, go back against the wall. Listen to the rules. When I say green light, what do you do? You run. When I say red light, what do you do? Stop. And then you wait until I say
Let me pause that. That was, whoa. That was the unplanned EO. The little girl goes backwards. She's backpedaling and she falls. And the other boy laughed. And that was an opportunity to do a preschool life skill. Had he already had it in his repertoire, saying, "Oh my goodness, are you okay? Can I help you?" Would be the outcome we would be hoping for. He doesn't have it in his repertoire yet. It's okay. We'll get him there. All right, let's watch her do this a little bit more.
Go back against the wall. Okay, help her up. Help her up. Are you okay? Okay, ready? We're waiting.
Oh, sorry. I clicked a button by accident.
Green light. Red light. And then you walk you up. Wait. Green light. Red light. Wait. Green light. Great job. Right, we're gonna do it one more time.
So she was helping them with waiting words by keeping the words wait, going. They were actually echoing her a little bit. All right, so that's the end of my presentation, my portion of it. So thanks for listening. I'm happy to answer questions and pass it along to my UCP colleagues who are responsible for doing all that marvelous teaching. Thanks so much, UCP.
Yeah, we don't have anything else to present besides that. We can follow up though, unless Eric, did you have something?
Well, I do have one more thing to present. Was the key slide that Tony missed. Oh, now it's not even the right size. If you are a fan of the New Kids on the Block, of course, you'll see them there in this picture. And I think this really stresses that RTI model in a much better way. You got to follow the steps.
Very good. Hey, I just got word that we have Dr. Ingvarson in the house. He is one of the authors of the original study that was published out of University of Kansas. Thanks for joining us, Einar. I appreciate it. And I wonder if anyone else. Do we have Dr. Mann? Is she joined? Or Melinda Robinson? Is Melinda here? Oh, Melinda was.
I don't think either of them could make it. Sorry, I was late. I was doing a training.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm glad you made it this at all. That's wonderful. All right, so let's do some questions. Any of us can be on the panel of question answering.
There were a few that were posted ahead of time, Tony, that I can just go ahead
Okay.
and hit those first.
Yeah.
Pull those up. So the first question was, do you have any information about which specific skills to target for various educational tiers? Hopefully that presentation answered that question, but I think we could follow up on that.
Yeah, sure. All of those skills are eligible for any of the tiers. The idea is that you first introduce it in a large group setting, in a whole group setting. That's tier 1, instruction for all. Tier 2 is instruction for some, small groups. Tier 3 is instruction for one, singular person. But you can do any of the 13 skills at any of those levels.
Perfect. The next question was, how could you modify the program for older students and clients?
Yeah, very good. First thing is to drop the word preschool. And then after that, all of those skills still apply. Even college students could go through this and benefit. If you've taught college students, you know that some of them are lacking in some of these skills here. So I would just be real explicit about it. It depends on if we're talking about someone with special needs who have some communication deficits versus students who are fully vocal verbal, then that would drive which way I decide to use prompting strategies and some of the introductory methods. But let me open that up a little bit. Hey, Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think one thing that is really neat about PLS is the form of the response should be just driven by the preferences of the stakeholders, the caregivers, the teachers, and actually, if for an older kid, have them be a part of the discussion about what those skills look like. That's not the critical part of PLS. So I think that can be informed and adapted to meet the ecological niche of that family, that school, and that kid.
Wow, that was a much better answer. Thank you so much.
I just want to mention that Tracy Mann at the Child Studies Center School in Fort Worth has done a great job of adapting the curriculum for different classrooms, different ages in their entire school, with school-wide there, and come up with a bunch of new skills that were based exactly on what Kevin just said, you know, stakeholder input and data collection. So I think she's always willing to share what she has done.
Very good. Okay, Sarah.
I was going to jump in with some recent questions here in the chat, Tony.
Okay.
I think that question was recently answered that Tracy Mann has some of the data sheets. I know that's something that we've been working through in New Discoveries on making some of the data sheets a little bit more simple for our staff to understand which students are moving towards the tier 2 and which are still working, which are still in tier 1. And we're currently working through that. I don't know if that helps, Megan, but if any, when we land on something that's effective and easy to implement with the staff, we can certainly share that. And then Kelly asked, I'll be implementing this in the fall in all 3 pre-K inclusion classrooms at the public school district. Any recommendations on how to get started? I've read the articles. This was extremely helpful as well. I didn't know if I wanted to pass that to Jen because she's the one that kicked this off at UCP for us. How did you guys get it rolling?
Yeah, so very exciting. We just jumped right in. Luckily, we had a presentation from Dr. Tony and Greg Hanley. They came on and they did a big presentation, so we felt like we had a good handle on the curriculum. We felt all ready to rock in September, and then we were faced with many obstacles with the pandemic, but we persevered. We taught the curriculum throughout the school year. We're very fortunate in our program. We're a 913, so we have many aides in the classroom. So that was a nice approach that worked well. We have lots of support, so it was all hands on deck with teaching that curriculum.
Yeah, I wanted to add too, you're in a really good place with 3 classrooms. I feel like that's a really good size. So we're working with 15 right now for summer, and in the fall we'll be doing 19 classrooms. And what we're finding is most effective for helping the staff. Our staff do not have a very extensive, or they have very minimal ABA training. So for those of us who do have training, being able to get into the classroom, help them create lesson plans to incorporate these skills into, and then really being in there to help them model for them how to properly reinforce the skills has been the most helpful at this point. So I'm excited for you to get it rolling out. So it's an awesome opportunity.
And we usually roll out one skill at a time. So it's one PLS skill is introduced at like kind of a group consult. So all the teachers are on the video call and we go over it. We do, like Sarah said, lesson planning, maybe do a go around. How do you think you would teach this skill? And then in the moment, Sarah's in helping in the classrooms. There's one more thing I was going to add and now it just left me.
I wanted to add too that the videos have been so helpful. The videos that were shared during this training, it was a little scary from our first staff at first to be taking those videos, putting yourself out there, but it's really worked really well for our program. Having those 18 classrooms across 6 sites, we're able to connect, collaborate, share those videos, and Tony's been great, and Sarah as well, and Tabby with the modeling. So that's really been helpful. I would recommend taking videos.
And we've started moving towards like peer-to-peer feedback. So teachers sometimes, and sometimes I do this myself, I fall back to like a good job after the student performs the skill that you were looking for. And we really talk a lot about those upgrades. That's really key, I think, in teaching these skills. The thing I was going to add was circle time. Our teachers introduce the skills as a whole to the whole class during circle time. So they'll say, all right, everyone, this is our new skill we're learning this week. When I call your name, I want all of you to respond and say yes. or I'm going to block your access to something, so you need to tap me on the shoulder and say, excuse me. And they talk at circle time with their whole classroom and then run it throughout the rest of the day, the rest of the week.
Wow, that is good. When we meet, those videos, they're generally like, I don't know, you saw the length of them. They're generally 30 seconds or so. So that you can get through them pretty quick. But there's just an immense amount of value in looking at the authentic stuff for celebratory purposes, and then also for some feedback. So initially what I do is I model how to do that. The first couple of weeks, I'll be doing most of that. But then I start to flip it around and ask other people to start to interpret the videos, to point out the aspects that made it successful, things that that they might do differently if given the situation again.
There's another question asking, what would be your recommended consequence for not responding to name without making the name aversive?
Can you say that again?
What would be your recommended consequence for not responding to name without making the name aversive? So how would you prompt a student to look at you and say yes without making that whole situation aversive?
Very good. Well, I would start gently, and in the manual, the way it works is you give another practice opportunity for them, and if they still don't respond as you want, then you move on, and you allow for them to start looking at all the other examples of all the other kids who are in fact cooperating and then getting upgrades in their life. But if it's a matter of prompting, whenever you're talking about any kind of movement with the head, I generally say don't touch the student on their head. So you can say, hey, watch me, this is how it's done. Or you can point to an assistant teacher and say, watch this person, or to your to one of their other friends, and make it happen. But yeah, it's real lighthearted. Remember, this is a prevention curriculum for kids who do not yet have or do not have severe problem behavior. If they do, this isn't really isn't going to be enough. They're going to need to be bumped into PFA SBT.
I would just offer that sometimes we augment the vocal calling of their name by gently touching their shoulder or gently interrupting their play momentarily to just further facilitate them potentially attending to the name, and then fade those out. Additional ways to help kind of shift their attention, especially if you're doing calling their name when they're engaged in some type of highly preferred or mildly preferred ongoing activity.
Thank you. That's really good. Yeah, that's similar to what we do in the PFA SBT when you first start a functional communication response and you approach the student who has an iPad. Oftentimes you have to occlude the vision of the iPad in order to get the proper motivation for the student to look up, and then you hit it with the reinforcer. Yeah, somebody said, what about the curriculum? It is free on the PFA website. It's also contained at the back of the appendix of the original publication. We are making some minor adjustments to update it, and we'll be rolling that out as they become available. One of the things we do want to do that will make it a little bit better is to have it professionally published. Right now, it's still pretty much in the same format that was used when it originally came out. It's a Word document that's grown over the years.
We only have a few minutes left, but there was a question about insurance and providing a rationale for using this curriculum, if anyone has suggestions.
Wow. I would offer up to say that it's one of the few curriculums out there that have such a robust data set behind it.
Yeah, I would add to that we're trying to always balance complexity of a approach with efficacy. And I do think the preschool life skills has a good balance of having the necessary skills and teaching approach that is amenable to classrooms with producing those outcomes that most kindergarten teachers want, which is appropriate pro-social behavior in a variety of ways. And I think it does meet that really well.
Well, I think it focuses exclusively on communication and social skills, really, if you just think about it. So those are the core deficits of autism. So it should be possible to make the case that for an early intervention program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good.
The final thing I'll just add is there is a host of the competition out there, but they involve a fair amount of talking where there's a lot of doing and actually setting it up, as Dr. Camilleri talked about, that you're setting up the exact scenario that you want this skill to ultimately exist going forward. So I think that is a differentiating feature relative to other programs too.
Good stuff.
Yeah, even the tolerance to delay is really social skill.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you know what we need to do here? I think from my perspective, I don't have a need for this. I just need to train the curriculum, make sure people know how to use it well. But because many of you are the practitioners, one thing that I don't know if it exists, but it would be an awesome collaborative activity prime for you all, is to create learning objectives, like IEP objectives, that go along with each of the 13 skills that could then be used in public schools. And then perhaps someone else could do a similar piece of design for objectives that would be sent to insurance companies. Should be pretty straightforward, but I bet you if we collaborate, we can knock this thing out and then share it with everyone. They'll be able to start, getting more people on board.
That's an awesome idea.
Thank you. Well, like we say, preschool life skills, it's not just for preschool anymore, but you can have a tremendous amount of fun doing this with the kids. And it really does allow for a lot of flexibility for the teachers. The teachers who want that kind of flexibility, it exists. You can absolutely do it. For the teachers who like more of a formulaic approach, a recipe, the manual has that too. There are already examples out there for what it looks like.
And I do think the class-wide application, the tier 1 in the response intervention model, is such a treasured opportunity, because when you have all kids looking to see their peers do the same thing and all the teachers would be doing the skills too, it becomes really a culture of that classroom. Whereas when I've done this in small group and one-on-one and try to backward design it into a classroom, I love having a classroom that the culture is already built. It just becomes the norm. It's not an extra skill. It's a way to just live life in the classroom.
Nice.
I think you said that perfectly. And I think across the 15 classrooms, Jen and Sarah, that we've seen, and they're all in different places, and the classrooms that have really taken off that we were able to highlight in this videos did just that. They embraced this whole classroom culture, and some of the ones that are still struggling have not quite gotten there. So I think that is key.
Mm-hmm. Right on. All right, well, I wish you well. I thank you all for attending and for coming out to learn a little bit more. Big shout out to UCP and all of my colleagues out there who have been doing this, and special thanks to Kevin and Einar for jumping on here and gracing us with their insight to the authors from the literature base on preschool life skills.
Thank you. This was fun. This is amazing. This is cool.
This was totally cool, Tony. It was great having you here. Awesome presentation. I think, certainly we're excited about where this is going, looking at ways to, as Lenny indicated, stop the cycle of more restrictions later down the road. And this is a perfect way to do it. I know for us, oftentimes some of our preschool kids, a good portion of them are coming to our Trade Winds program. And so we're looking at ways that we can intervene earlier down the chain, which is key. Tony, I know you mentioned at the beginning your presentation or your training that you're going to be doing coming up in the next month. Is there any way that people can get information on that? Do you want to post it back to the Facebook page? Where do they find out about you, Tony, and what you're doing in your life?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, probably the best place is the FTF website. All those courses that are going up, I got a hand in the backside of all that, where I do the online programming and getting them up there.
Great. So that's where, for the upcoming training on the PLS, that's where we can find information about that.
No, I'm sorry. What I'm going to do, I was talking with the folks today from the Nebraska Autism Network. And I asked them specifically, is there a way for other people to buy tickets to get into your thing? And they originally hadn't set it up as a pay for situation. But given that I told them that there's 200 people who showed interest in this, they said that they're going to look into being able to produce a link that I can then post on Facebook. And then, so stay tuned for that. I'll put it up on Facebook if they make it happen. If not, don't fret. There's going to be lots of other opportunities coming up here because, as I had mentioned before, it's starting to blow up.
That's great. Yeah, it'd be nice to have one that similar to the 10-hour training that you have for the PFA SPT, huh? Where people can connect that way as well. Super. Awesome.
That is in the making. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Good. And it sounds like the other thing that's been thrown up there, I think Jeremy earlier, we were waiting for the lag time between this presentation and when a Facebook group will have a subcommittee of the PLS. Sounds like it will be done by the end of this. So I'm sure there's people here that would want to join and be help out. And so we'll reach out to the crew there over at the Facebook page about making that happen.
Okay.
Awesome. Great seeing everybody. It's always nice. And then next summer, plan to come to Central New York, where we'll do some presentations on the PLS and talk about some other great things that have been going on within the agency, but broader as well. So we're excited about that conference. It's going to happen.
Good. Love it.
Cool.
All right, everybody. Go have a great evening.